use Stellarium to figure out exactly when, depending on your location, you can safely view totality. So I'm going to use a free planetarium software called Stellarium. I already have it installed, but if you search Stellarium, it should be one of the first things that show up. One thing to mention is that there is also Stellarium for mobile, as well as Stellarium Web, where you don't need to download it. Stellarium Web definitely doesn't have as many features as the downloaded version, as I learned from some students trying to use it in a course with me this semester. And I have never really used Stellarium on the phone. I have heard that Stellarium for iPhone is not free, and Stellarium for Android is free, but I don't know if they contain all the features. So you're going to want to choose Stellarium for your specific version, whether that's a Windows machine, probably Windows 10 Plus will be most of you, whether that's a Linux machine or a Mac. I'm currently on a Mac, I already have Stellarium installed, so go ahead and download and install it, and then launch it after you're done. I actually have 2 versions of Stellarium installed, not that it really matters. Okay, and then you all will probably have a newer version of Stellarium than me. We're on Stellarium 24.1. I am not sure which version of Stellarium I am on exactly, but it shouldn't matter too much. So we're going to go to the location window first, and mine always defaults to where I was born, which is kind of funny. So we'll go ahead and switch to Fort Wayne for right now. And you can notice that it mentions the specific latitude and longitude that you're at. So let's just work with where this defaulted to for right now, just to show what it looks like in general. So let's go ahead and move to our date and time window. By the way, that little sidebar, you need to drag your mouse over there, over towards the left bottom corner or so for it to show up. And then for the date and time window, sometimes you'll end up with Julian date, where you have these weird looking numbers. They do have an important meaning in astronomy, but for most of you, we'll want to switch to date and time. And then we need to move this forward to April 8th, and not 9 p.m. It's always in military time. But we need to move this to roughly the time of the eclipse, which is around 3 o'clock. And if we search for the sun now, or I should say 3 o'clock for roughly the Midwestern US, so it'll be earlier if you're down south in Texas, for example, later if you're northeast in Pennsylvania or New York or so. And we can see that there is there should be a field on here somewhere. So you can see that there is part of the sun blocked out right now. So it's showing the moon. And I actually don't see the field that I'm looking for quite yet. So I'm going to move this forward minute by minute. Okay, so it could be that my version of Stellarium right now is too old. So I'll go ahead and switch over to Stellarium copy, which, oh yeah, so this is version 13.3. I thought Stellarium copy was a older version for me, but maybe it's my newer version actually, which I think is still version 14 or so, whereas we're at 24.1 on the latest. No, okay, so my Stellarium copy is version 18, so still an older version, probably safer if you use the latest version. But let's go to Fort Wayne. And there is a benefit actually to that not working, which I'll mention in a moment. So let's go to April 8th, and then rewind to roughly 3 p.m., which is relevant for the Midwest. And then so by the way, if you don't click in here, then you could have some weird keyboard shortcuts happening. All right, and now I see eclipse obscuration as well as eclipse magnitude. The benefit of having that happen is that if you try Stellarium Web, you will not see these two fields, similar to my old version of Stellarium. And now this is, time is ticking forward second by second, and so that eclipse obscuration is increasing, increasing, increasing. I'm going to pause this so that instead of just waiting and watching, we can move it minute by minute. And so you can see that the eclipse obscuration increased to 97%. At 3:08 p.m., it goes up to 98.8%. And then at 3:09, it's at 99.55%. At 3:10, it's real close. So I'm going to start ticking this forward second by second and see if it gets any higher up. It might not. Okay, it looks like at our specific latitude and longitude, the maximum obscuration was 99.83%. For context, that is similar to a very overcast day. It is possible that you would see Venus, but it is unlikely that you would see any other stars. Maybe you'd see Jupiter, but probably not. And so that suggests that we don't want to be in wherever this default location for Fort Wayne is. My version of Stellarium has this weird thing where the arrow doesn't point where your latitude and longitude is set to. So again, probably better off using the latest version. And so what I'm going to do is actually use my phone. I have an iPhone, and I can drop a pin, and that'll tell me the specific latitude and longitude where I drop a pin. Otherwise, I'm sure you can do a similar thing with Google Maps or so. I haven't figured that out yet. And so if we look in Fort Wayne, and if I drop a pin by the intersection of Highway 27 and 33 along Decatur Road near something labeled Hessen and Kassel, maybe that's a little town or so, I see I have coordinates of 40.9. So I actually want to leave that degree marker in. I'm going to delete that and put 40.97882, and then if I hit enter, Stellarium will convert that for me. And then for the longitude, similarly going to delete those things, and then the new longitude, again, kind of where 27 and 33 intersect over at Hessen Castle, 85.08108. And so that didn't change it by much, but now we are at 100% eclipse obscuration, and I can tick this second marker down to figure out when exactly the eclipse would start for this location, and therefore figure out how long it lasts as well. And so it looks like it lasts a decent amount of time, not just a few seconds. Alright, and so there is a colossal difference between eclipse obscuration of 99.99% and 100%. I can't stress that enough. Below 100%, it is not safe to view the sun. At 100%, the moon is completely obscuring the surface of the sun. You'll be able to see the solar corona. It's absolutely beautiful. It's majestic. You'll be able to see the planets and stars. Alright, so this begins, the eclipse at this particular location begins at 3:09 and 50 seconds. And again, you should probably use the latest version of Stellarium, just in case they've included some slight modifications to the ephemerides of the moon and the sun. And now we can tick this forward, and it looks like it lasts less than 2 full minutes. I'm going to back this up second by second. Alright, and now we find that the eclipse ends at 3:11 and 4 seconds. So you'll know when you're able to safely start viewing the eclipse and when you need to stop viewing the eclipse with your naked eye and put your eclipse glasses back on. And this is a very general technique, so we can switch our location window to, I'm going to go ahead and check in on Dallas. So Fort Wayne right now actually is projected for clear skies from noon onwards, which is awesome. Dallas, which is where I was planning on going, and then down to Horseshoe Bay for an astronomy conference, is currently projected to be. Yesterday it was projected to be thunderstormy. Today it's projected to be simply cloudy. So we'll see if I actually stick around Fort Wayne instead, or go down to Indianapolis, which is also currently projected to be sunny, which is quite nice. And so for Dallas, you could search it. If I just dropped a pin on my phone, and I'm going to set my coordinates for some random place in Dallas. I didn't pick anywhere in particular. 32.78871 degrees north. And in terms of the longitude, that is 96.78745. And of course now we're nowhere near totality. In Texas, the eclipse happens earlier, so I need to go back to my date and time window. By the way, for my laptop, it's about 10 years old, and it has a bit of a hard time working with Stellarium, but it does the job okay. So if I move this backwards in time, well, let's see. Okay, there we go. And it looks like, according to this, there might be a little bit of a time zone issue here. So make sure, ideally, that you are playing around with you have your computer system time set to whatever time zone you're going to be playing with. So apparently at 2:44, which could be true, but I feel like that's potentially off. Apparently at 2:44, Dallas will have its eclipse, and it lasts for a pretty good long time. So that started somewhere in this 1441 or 1440 mark. Okay, so the eclipse starts in Dallas according to this, but again, I really recommend that you do this with the latest version and make sure that your computer's system clock is set to the appropriate time zone. According to this, the eclipse in Dallas will start at 2:40:37, and then we're going to move this by minute. And then the eclipse would end at 2:44:31. So again, maybe take these specific numbers for Dallas with a grain of salt, but this is how you can choose for your very specific latitude and longitude, not just your city, but your exact coordinates, when you will be able to view the eclipse. Hope that helps. Have a good night.